Hey dolls, and welcome back to my channel. So my name is Therese, and on this channel I usually do skincare reviews, so you have a general idea how new makeup or new skincare performs before purchasing them. I'm excited for this foundation review because the foundation that I'm going to review is going to be from MAC, and the last time they made a new foundation was 10 years ago. Yes, they reformulate some of their foundation, but they never really release a new foundation. And this is like the Studio Fix baby sister. This is the MAC Studio Radiance Serum Powered Foundation. I'm really intrigued about this foundation because when they formulated this foundation, they actually focus on the skincare first and then added the pigments. So this foundation is made up of 80% skincare and 20% of pigments. So it's the other way around because usually they focus on the foundation aspect first, like the pigments, the wearability and things like that. But with this foundation, they did the reverse and focus on skincare ingredients first before adding the pigments. So on this video, we're going to do a try on, we're going to do an oxidation test, we are going to do a photography test, a wearability test, blotting sheet test. So if you like thorough foundation reviews like this, please don't forget to like this video, please don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you'll always be updated once a new video is out. So this foundation is described as a moisturizing, softly luminous and skin enhancing foundation that delivers instant hydration, buildable, smoothing coverage, and lasting radiance. This costs 62 Canadian dollars and 50 cents, which I think is the priciest foundation for MAC, because usually their foundation are $52 for 30 ml, and I think that this is one of the most expensive foundation from MAC. But I do understand that they put a lot of skincare ingredients in this foundation, and that's usually a factor why foundations up their price. The more skincare ingredients they put on the foundation, the higher the price. This one comes in 56 shades, and I got the shade NC20. I usually go for NC30, but the person that was helping me at MAC told me that if I'm NC30, I should go one shade lighter because the shades with this foundation run darker. So if you're using NC30 on your Studio Fix Plus, you might be an NC20 for this serum foundation. I think like from the bottle, I can see that it actually fits my skin tone better. And it's also fall now in Toronto, well, almost fall. So I think I have a lighter complexion. So the consistency of this is quite milky, like instantly it drips on the back of my hand. Oh my god, it's dripping. It's dripping, and I think I need to put it on now. So one swipe here. I think this is a good match for my neck because my face is usually brighter than my neck. First impression, it kind of reminds me of the MAC Face and Body foundation, but that one is kind of milky and it doesn't have that serumy texture. This one, you can really feel the serumy texture. It really feels like a oily serum, but not to the point that when you feel it on your face, it feels very oily and very icky. It actually feels like a very light face oil. Because it is water-based, the first ingredient on this foundation is water, but it also has oil in it. Like I've said, it has jojoba seed oil, it has olive fruit oil. It's in between, but I can see more of that hydrating factor. I can see that it is giving more of that water-based dewy look instead of that, like, you know, very radiant look, and it really feels nice on the skin. It really feels more like a skincare than a foundation. With one layer of foundation, you can really see that it really evened out my skin tone. It really makes my skin look very healthy. And if you have been following me on this channel, you know that I love Skin Like foundation, and this one is right up on my alley. Like, I really love how this evened out my skin tone. It's almost invisible. It almost looks like I just have really good, healthy skin. So let's go on the other side. With skin tints, I find that it's better to use a brush. So I'm not gonna use a sponge, because most of the time, if it is heavily made and formulated with skincare ingredients, the sponge usually soak up those skincare ingredients, so it's better to use a synthetic brush, I find. And the person helping me at MAC is so right in telling me that I need one shade lighter. It's not that it oxidized on my skin, but I find that the naming of the shade for the MAC Studio Radiance is not the same as how they name the other foundations that they have. For me, NC20 of the MAC Radiance look more like an NC30 of their Studio Fix foundation. So we have one layer of foundation right now. It does feel very moisturizing. It does have a soft, luminous finish. I think it's half luminous, half dewy, because it is water-based, but it also has those oils. And yes, even though it has a dewy, luminous finish, it doesn't highlight the big pores on my cheeks. I think I'm gonna do one more pump, but I'm gonna use this all over my face. So far, I think that this foundation is really staying true to all of its claims. I love it. I have to confess, I love MAC makeup. I love their blushes. I love their eyeshadows most especially. But when it comes to foundation, I never had a foundation from MAC that I kept for my kit, because I think that it's heavy, and I think that it's really meant for like stage makeup, because the coverage is really heavy, and I think some of them really oxidize on my skin. That's why I stay away from MAC foundation. But I have to say, this one I think will change my mind, although I think that I would still need a shade lighter than this, maybe an NC15, because right now I think it still looks very tan on my face. On the screen it's fine, but looking at the mirror, I think that it's still very tan. But it is very buildable. I wouldn't say it would give you a full coverage. This is a serum foundation after all, but it really hides all the redness, but for sure it wouldn't hide my freckles over here, my hyperpigmentation. But when it comes to evening out your skin tone, this foundation really evened out my skin tone. So I just finished using my concealer. That's why you can see that I have powder underneath, because I am reviewing the Makeup by Mario versus the Haus Lab concealer, so make sure you check that out. But now let's test how this foundation would work with creams and powder on top. I'm using, this is the Kiko Milano Beauty Roar 2-in-1 Cushion Bronzer. Oh yeah, it blends seamlessly on top of this foundation. Now I'm gonna use my Laura Mercier powder to set the foundation. Of course, the luminosity doesn't show anymore after I put the powder, but I can really feel that it's still moisturizing on my face. That's how it feels. Like, even though I powdered it, it doesn't feel matte on my face. I can still really feel that softness on my skin. I'm back, and this is how my face looks like with full face of makeup. So I had no problems at all with this foundation. Blending my liquid bronzer, my powder blush, they just seamlessly blend so well on top of this foundation. And although I already put my powder on top of this foundation, I can just feel that moisturizing feeling of the foundation on my skin. And when I touch my skin even, it doesn't feel like a matte foundation. It really feels like it has moisturizer on, because it still feels very moisturizing on. Let's see if it actually transfers. It does transfer, but I kind of expected that because it is very emollient. Let's see if I added more powder on this part. Does my skin look smoother? I think so. It doesn't highlight my pores, although when I put my blush, my pores are more prominent, but that's because my blush has a lot of those sparkly pigments. Let's see, I'm just gonna use my translucent powder from Patrick Star. When I put my foundation, those pores doesn't look too visible. As soon as I put that blush on, it started to become visible. And I'm also going to set my face with the Skindinavia Bridal Finishing Spray. And now I'm going to show you what this foundation looks like on flash and non-flash photography. I'm also going to show you how it looks like on phone photography and how it looks like on my phone camera on a video. Next up is a wearability test. So 1 hour has passed. I don't see any oxidation with this foundation. It still looks very natural and I don't think it oxidized on my skin. 4th hour update. I'm really getting oily at this point, especially on my T-zone, and the foundation is moving around because I was getting super oily. 8-hour update, and the only thing that's on my face is my concealer because the foundation just melted off my face. Okay, so this is day 2 of using the MAC Radiant Serum Foundation. Yesterday when I tried it, on the 4th or 5th hour, when my face started to get oily, my foundation started to just move and melt away. So today what I'm going to do is to use an oil control primer. I'm also not going to prep my face. I'm going to rely on this foundation for all its skincare. So I'm using the Makeup Forever Shine Control Primer. With this, you really need to use your fingers because it can give like a film on top of your skin. So if you use a brush, you might put a lot. It will be hard to blend your foundation on top. Tiny amount on my nose, and make sure to distribute it evenly, and on the side of my cheeks again, like very little. So that's the only step that I'm going to do when it comes to priming my face. And then with the foundation, I'm gonna make sure to really shake this well, because the reason that it might have been sliding off my face is that I got a lot of the serum and less of the pigment. So I'll just make sure to really mix this foundation really well. So 1 pump. I'm still going to use a brush because initially I really like how this foundation performed on my face. I really like how skin-like it is. But throughout the day, that's when the problem happened. It's very humid now in Toronto. You would think that it should be fall season, but it's still really hot outside. So my second pump on my left, and then another pump for my forehead. Just a small pump, not a full pump. Actually went to MAC yesterday and I couldn't find my receipt, so I'm stuck with this shade. But if I can find my receipt, I wanted to actually exchange it for an NC15 instead. See, that's what I like about this. It's in between radiant and dewy. Like you can really see how it really makes my skin looks its healthiest. I really like it. Okay, so another step that I am going to change is I'm not gonna powder this instantly. I am gonna make sure that the skincare in this foundation gets absorbed first. So I'm going to wait for about 10 minutes to make sure that this foundation really sets before I add my cream contour, my cream blush, and my powder. 10 minutes has passed and I think the foundation has set onto my face. Although you can see that my skin still looks very luminous and a little glowy, especially on top of my cheeks. That's because this foundation is very moisturizing. So I am going to add my cream blush on top before I set it with powder. And I'm using the Makeup by Mario Soft Pop Plumping Blush Veil in Barely Blushing. Some on my cheeks. And then for powder, I'm using the OS in the shade Translucent. This is the One Size Beauty powder, and I'm going to make sure to put a lot of powder on the side of my face where I really get oily. Here on the side of my cheeks, also on the top of my nose, and of course on my forehead. And then I'm not gonna put a lot of powder on top of my cheeks. I still want that glow to be there. And again, I'm gonna set it with the Scandinavia setting spray. So this is how the foundation looks like with full face of makeup. I'm gonna add a little bit of that blush for a little bit of glow because I find that the powder really mattified this. The Makeup by Mario and the MAC Radiance Foundation, they don't really jive together because they're both very serumy. It just created like a cakey film. So I removed my foundation and my blush, started over, put powder, and I'm just going to use a powder blush. I'm going to use Gingerly by MAC. And hopefully by using more powder and less of the cream products, this would help the foundation stay put on my face better. Hey dolls, I'm back and this is the 7th hour update. I have to say this is a big improvement compared to day 1 when I didn't know how to prep my face for this foundation. So on the 6th hour, I can see that the pigments are forming on the side of my nose, which usually happens especially if my foundation is very serumy. I also saw some separation on the side of my cheeks where I get very oily. Now that I have prepped this with an oil control primer, my forehead looks so much better than day 1. So now let's do the blotting sheet test. So on my forehead, oh wow, there's still a lot. But then again, this could be the moisturizer on the foundation. So this is a fresh blotting sheet comparing to this. It's quite oily. And then on the side of my cheeks, oh, it's not too bad on the side of my cheeks. There you go. And the foundation also transferred on the blotting sheet. You can really see the separation of the foundation, especially when I blotted it. Okay, I think that I'm ready for my final thoughts about this new foundation from MAC. First of all, I don't think that this is made for oily skin or oily combination skin. I think that this would work better for people with dry to normal skin type. It also didn't claim to be a long wearing foundation, so I really think that this was made for people that really need skincare in their foundation. And what I like the most about this foundation is that it really felt like a moisturizer on. Even up to now, it still feels very nourishing on the face. It feels very nourishing, but it doesn't feel icky or gross on top of your skin. But again, if you have oily skin, just make sure that you stay away from cream, use powder, and use a finishing spray. Overall, I think that this delivered on all of its claims. So for that, I'm giving this foundation a 5 out of 5 stars. But if I'm going to base my rating on what I am looking for on a foundation, I think that I am going to give this foundation a rating of 4 out of 5 stars. The only thing that I didn't like about this foundation is that it's not that long wearing. Although 5 hours is a good amount of time for foundation wear, and I don't really look too bad. If you really look up close, you can see the separation on the side of my cheeks, but from afar, I don't look like I'm a mess. For 62 Canadian dollars, I was expecting this to last me up until the 6th or 7th hour, especially since I already primed, I powdered, and I used a finishing spray. But other than that, I really like the finish of this. I really like that it didn't really emphasize the pores on my cheeks. I love that it gave me a healthy glow without it looking like an oily mess. My skin just looks very healthy with this foundation on. So that's it. That wraps up my foundation review for this newly launched foundation from MAC. I hope that you find this video helpful, and if you have any questions that I didn't cover on this video, just comment down below. I'll be happy to answer all of your questions. Thank you so much, dolls, again for watching. Please don't forget to like this video. Please don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you'll always be updated once a new video is up. Thank you so much, dolls, again for watching. I'll see you on my next one.